So as you can see, I'm downloading my free standard assets to the Unity game engine. So it's almost done. All right, and one is this download. Okay, um, you can start import your standard assets right into the game engine of Unity. All right, so it will open up a window like this. Basically everything is ticked so that you get everything, um, and you can click import. Okay, so once that is import, it will start to show up. It takes a little while here. Now sometimes the importing process is not very good, and sometimes the assets are broken and you may have to re-import again. So basically you click on the assets and re-import new assets or import package right here. Okay, now the assets can be reached under your share folder if you are in the Macintosh, and under Unity you have a folder called Unity, and this is my 2018 project, and here obviously there is the assets that's being import. Okay, so it's quite a lot of stuff and it's still going on. Basically the standard assets contain a first person game controller which allows you to run around your project like you are a first person seeing the environment um, in a subjective view, or a third person game controller which you actually see a little character running around in your landscape, right? So for VR purpose we usually work with the first person controller, which the camera actually it's looking into the VR world, just like you wear the head mount display and seeing the VR world in 360 degree. Okay, as you can see, I'm almost done with importing the standard assets, which will allow me to create a very basic landscape. Okay, so as you can see, my standard assets folder appears here, and also if you open up assets, it will appear as standard assets. All right, and if you click on it, inside the folder it has cameras and different types of things that you can do. You can have a vehicles, you can go with a car, and so it's a lot of things that is already set up so that you can start building your conventional games right away. But of course, if you are doing your own game, you probably have to bring in special stuff that you have created yourself. Alright, so we have a standard assets here, which is very essential to create a basic landscape for your virtual world. Now, so previously we have exported a FBX file from SketchUp, your Dreamhouse, right? So at the same time, probably you can do it right now to import your Dreamhouse here. So you go to the standard assets, okay, and import new assets, and then you look for the Dreamhouse that you have created as an FBX file here, okay, and you import the FBX Dreamhouse file. So depending on the complexity of your dream house, it may take a while if you have a very detailed, complex model. Usually in game engine, you are not advised to create very complex model, as these models will hinder the game engine playing function, so that when you play games it won't be smooth at all. So okay, as you can see, I already import my dream house here, and you can see the 3D models right here, and without any landscape I can simply drag in my model, and you can see right away, my dream house is already present, right? But there's no ground at all for it, right? So we need to really create a ground for this dream house, so that as a viewer you can start walking around. All right, so we'll just place it here at the moment. So how do you start our standard landscape? Okay, so let's do that. So we go to inspector, and here in assets we go to create. All right, and under create we have lots of items, and also in game objects there are simplified items, and under 3D object you can go to terrain. Alright, so terrain is the first fundamental piece of item that we should start creating. So I click terrain. Alright, and as you can see, the Unity will provide me with a very large square, and as compared to the dream house I import, it's actually quite a large place, right? You can create a whole game world in this piece of land, and as you can see, it's really just a white piece of 2D plane. So maybe at this point we would like to put some texture to it. Okay, so we click on this terrain, and then we over here you can see that under terrain in inspector, it's the thing that you can deal with these particular assets, and I click on the brush item here. Once you click on it, you notice there is this different brush size, and under texture, all right, I click on edit texture, and let me just start adding some texture to this particular terrain. Now under this box I will click select. Now then you'll see this pop up, and we'll go down to find a particular texture that suits my terrain. Let's say I go for the grass hue, which is a standard assets texture, and I can add the grass hue right here. Alright, so now you can see that the grass texture seems to be quite repetitive, right? It's kind of start repeating itself. Okay, so in order to prevent doing that, I can edit my texture again, and you notice here the size can actually be changed from say 15 to 30. Alright, so let me change to 30, and you start noticing that the grass pattern seems less repetitive. I can keep increasing, let's say like 50. Okay, but notice when you increase this size, the texture become very big, and it may look strange, right? So I will just probably stay at 35, right? And I goes apply. Alright, so I'm starting having this kind of grassland, as you can see, and you can see that my dream house is very tiny at the corner here. We don't do anything with it yet. Alright, so as you can see, if you are still on the brush um, selection, you notice that as I move to the grass, there is this blue patch, and if you click on it, right, you notice that you can do something to the landscape by, if you click on the mountain, this kind of like a mountain icon, and I can start raising the landscape like that. Okay, so this is very neat. Like you see it right away that you can create a terrain, right, by clicking the brush and clicking the mountain, and it will raise your terrain, and little mountain will start to appear. All right, so let's just do a sort of kind of a landscape here. All right, so I can, if you keep pushing it, the mountain will keep raising. And of course, you may want to um, change your perspective by moving your mouse. Okay, if you move your mouse by clicking the middle mouse button, you have a hand. Okay, you can move around. If you click on the right side, you can see that there's an eye, and you can rotate and pivot around to see. Okay, and here is very different setup. Okay, so I'm still selecting my terrain, and I will do a little bit more mountain here. As you can see, you can choose other types of brush, right? So if you do with other brush, it will create this kind of more rugged landscape, and maybe this is not what you want, and you can um, use this particular one to sort of wash off your terrain to make it smoother again. Okay, to smooth out the roughness that I just create. Alright, so I can do this. Okay, so I don't like the rough landscape, so I'm going to just smooth it out, and I'm going to change my perspective a bit, right, so that I can see my landscape better. Maybe turning this side. Okay, and then I do the same thing here. So you can see that I can really create any types of terrain I want, and also I can import geographic data, right? So that the terrain function will review itself as representing a certain geographic um, situation in the real earth, real geography. So as you can see, I finished creating a sort of terrain here, and I can look around to see if this kind of fits my desire, right? And my dream house is still here. Okay, so at this point, I think it will be interesting to give some water around this place. Okay, so I go to the standard assets, and I check out the other material that I can have. So here you, under the environment, you have water, right? So let's just go to water, and in water you go to something called a prefab. Alright, so I would like the water pro date, and I can just start dragging in the water item here. Okay, and as you can see, it's only a very small patch, and what you can do is actually click on the scale, right, and you can just enlarge your water plane into a very large ocean-like ocean-like plane, right? So you can adjust the the um, the depth of the water by clicking, moving the y-axis, right? So you can see that I can make a kind of low land here, kind of shallow shore. So you can see that my islands, it's almost, you know, ready, right? But obviously, when you look at a paradise island, you got some sandy beach, right? It's not just grass and water here. So what you can do is to add some sand near the water plane, right? So here you click on your terrain again, right? And go to your brush, all right? And add texture. Okay, so now you want to add a second texture to your terrain, and let's try to find some kind of sand. So sand here, okay, and maybe I adjust the size a little bit at 30. Okay, so add. Alright, so you have a sand texture, and I can start, adding some sand around um, the shore here. So maybe this is too big. I can make the brush size a little bit smaller. Okay, so I can add the sand around my shore here, maybe bigger. The opacity is higher. Alright, so the sand should be somehow surrounding the island shore, and maybe the sand is somewhere here at the lake. Okay, alright, so let's this part as my, so I like my beach. So some more sand here. Maybe I should just, alright. So as you can see, the water plane, can see how to adjust the water plane by selecting it. Okay, and make it maybe a little bit higher or lower, like that. Okay, alright. So, and in between the sand and the grass, you can add even one more item, like a rock, right? So I add another type of texture, like a rocky texture. Some kind of grass and rock mixtures, and I can make it a smaller brush, so I can select my rock, and I can add some rock here, so to make it more gradual, right? The change of the landscape becomes more gradual. Okay. Okay, so besides this, I can add trees and vegetations also, right? So I can add some type of trees by clicking the trees icon and then add tree. Okay, and here with this box coming in, I can click on a tree prefab, and here I can have broadleaves, I can have coniferous. Let's see if I can have maybe palm trees. Palm tree seems nice. Okay, so here's a palm. Alright, so I add the palm, and before you click this, and you can adjust your brush size first, in case you know you put too many trees and it will slow down the computer. Here you see that you have tree density. You don't want 83 trees at one click, so you probably slow it down to maybe 15 or 16. Okay, so now I can add some trees by just clicking, and maybe a little bit more, and we can have more densities. Okay, you can have more. Okay, you can have more trees. So you notice how fun it is to start creating your own landscape, and giving the world that you envision start to come alive, right? And you can add other plants such as flowers and stuff like that. All right. And besides the vegetation, you can even add some kind of effect. All right. Audios, light effect, 2D objects, 3D objects, wind song. Okay, this is one particular interesting stuff where you add a wind song here. Alright, so you add a certain wind song. Okay. Now, in order to walk around the islands, you need to create a first-person camera to be able to walk around it. Okay, so here is a prefab camera. Okay, and also there's a character. It's called a first person character. Okay, the first person character, when you click the prefab, it has a object called the first person controller, and what you do is that you drag your first person controller onto the landscape. Okay, right here, and with that you can probably do away with your main camera. You don't need it. Okay, so you delete it. So now is the first person controller that will dictate how you see the landscape. Alright, so once you put the first person controller here in one part of your landscape, you can probably start looking at things. Alright, with the first person controller. I have a tiny bit of the first person controller here. Alright, okay, so what you do once you put the first person controller, it's that you can hit play. Alright, and once you hit play, just wait a little bit. and then you dive right into your landscape, and you can use your mouse to look around, okay, just like you start playing a game, and use your typical keyboard navigation, um, WASD, to walk around. Okay, so see, you can actually walk near the water, you can even walk under the water, and you see the water is actually quite realistic, and you can walk back up. Okay, so actually it becomes a real landscape that you can walk around, and you can see the palm trees are kind of moving because I have put the wind zone around it. Alright, and you can hear your footstep, and the sky is quite nice. Now when you hit play, right now is in the play mode, and in order to kind of get back to the create mode, you need to hit escape. Alright, and escape, you get your click your pointer back, and then you can finish your game play mode. Okay, and now I think it's about time that you can bring your amazing dream house into the scene. Okay, so basically you just click on your dream house here at hierarchy and move it to a ideal location, okay, that you like. And notice your dream house is quite small, and in effect you can move it to a place that you like, but at the same time you can actually increase the size of your dream house by clicking the scale item. Okay, so here you notice the dream house is way too small, and you can change the scale by clicking the scale icon, and then just click on the box right in the middle to increase your dream house. Okay, so this seems to be the right size, and you should move it around so that it's placed properly in the landscape. Okay, so it's right now is way too high, and my Porsche is in the water, right? So I need to actually maybe rotate it properly, okay, by clicking the rotate button, and I can do this by rotating my dream house. Okay, and move it properly to the landscape. Alright, so let's just say that I place it here. Okay, so when I hit play, okay, I can again explore my house. Now it seems floating. Now, one thing about importing model into the landscape is that you can practically walk through your model, right? And it doesn't make sense, right? Because supposedly when you hit a wall, you hit a wall, right? You shouldn't be able to walk through it. Now the reason is that you haven't tell the game engine that there is an object there, although you see it, right? So in a way, you have to tell the game engine that there's a block, there's a wall, and there are things to go up and down, right? Right now you can just walk through it. So this comes handy when you understand the idea of collider, right? You need to create a certain collider so that it aligns with the shape of your house, okay, and then so that when you walk towards it, you won't walk through it. You will hit a wall, and then it will have certain boundaries, right? Like here, I can walk up to the plane here and not walk through it. All right. So to know further about how to do collider, I have prepared another video, and there are other sources that you can look into. But please create a collider for your dream house so that you can walk through it properly, right? And usually a simple collider goes very well with basic objects. A basic object is like a cube or a plane or a spear or stuff like that. For more complex model, you have to sort of cheat the game engine by creating a sort of invisible collider, right? For example, like this wall, you have to create another wall behind it so that it looks like you are hitting on this particular wall, right? Okay, so collider is a very important element for navigation. Okay, so please understand to create your colliders for your dream house, and then you are practically complete with your um, setting up of your virtual world, right? And the rest is about what you're going to place in the virtual world, what kind of interaction in your virtual world, what will happen, and that comes down to the story and the narratives, right? If you go here, what will happen in the dream house? If you go up the mountain, what is going to be there? So by linking up different items in this landscape, you start to create a story, and you let people understand what's the meaning to live inside your virtual world. Okay, so here I will stop here, and you will probably go further with finding out to do colliders in the next video or in the video links I provide in Moodle. And then basically your Unity project exercise is complete, right? The next step would be decided by your group to do what kind of world you are creating and what kind of interaction and story you want to allow people to experience. Okay.